Welcome to the Long Island chapter virtual Out of the Darkness Campus Walk 2021. My name is Sarah Bowles, and I'm a coordinator of mental health services on the Ammerman campus of Suffolk County Community College. I provide mental health support and outreach programming to my campus community. I have worked in mental health in higher education for over 15 years, first on a 4-year residential campus, and for the past 6 years in a 2-year community college setting. Depression, mood disorders, and anxiety are very common amongst college students, and this is well documented. But according to a recent mental health survey completed by the JED Foundation in 2020, students are reporting even higher rates of anxiety, social isolation and loneliness, depression, trouble concentrating, and difficulty coping with stress in a healthy way. Suicide also remains the second leading cause of death for college students. This increase relates directly to the challenges presented by the pandemic over the past year, which continue to negatively impact the mental health of college students and society as a whole. Being unable to access in-person mental health services seems to be a factor in students not reaching out for support. Even though we are also providing services on campus, they are being offered remotely. While this is still helpful to many, it presents challenges for those who don't have a safe and private space to receive support. Also, I have found that students are overwhelmed by their current circumstances, and the lack of structure and social supports is adding to their struggles and difficulty in coping in general. The remote learning environment is also not adequate or ideal for many, which is affecting their ability to be academically successful. In my experience, suicidal ideation and attempts are more common than students realize. They are also highly stigmatized. I believe that the isolation that students are experiencing in different ways due to the pandemic is certainly contributing to the level of suicidality in children, adolescents, and young adults. Students struggling with suicidal ideation are carrying a heavy weight. And once they are able to open up about these thoughts and feelings, it can begin the process of healing and getting the support that they need. And this is why it's so important to have open and honest conversations about suicide and suicide prevention, as well as mental health in general, to help people feel more comfortable sharing their experiences and supporting others who may be struggling. We sat down with college students on Long Island to get their thoughts on the mental health issues facing them and their peers, and the importance of suicide prevention efforts like this and the Out of the Darkness Walk.
To someone who's never lived with any kind of mental illness or suicidal ideation, I'd have to say depicting it is kind of hard.
It's a struggle. It's kind of like being sick, with the cold or the flu, but like you can't really just get rid of it.
It's a feeling that, is almost a different person, a different version of me. So when I think about those times, sometimes it's wondering, what kind of, trying to recreate it for myself of where was my mind at when I was thinking this, and what was I thinking at that time? What were my emotions? Because it sometimes feels like a different person when you experience those. You don't feel like yourself.
It's living every day fighting your mind instead of fighting, your immune system. You're fighting your brain, which tells you how to, do things and how to live life.
Everybody is naturally empathetic, and you have to dial into that to understand a loved one or a friend or just somebody you see who needs help. I would say you have to be open to understanding that their feelings may not be your specific idea of what suicidalness looks like.
And so then a lot of people, I don't anymore, find unhealthy coping mechanisms or maladaptive behaviors.
For me, you know, sometimes it's just getting my mind off of it, talking to friends, you know, family.
Know who supports you and who doesn't, and know who supports you in the right ways.
And being honest with them about how I feel and telling them, hey, I'm not having a good day today. I'm having a weak mental health moment right now.
Some people, they just immediately call and you're in the hospital. And some people just immediately tell you to suck it up.
And understanding that they might not be able to do anything, but coming out with that and just saying, hey, listen, it's a rough day right now, takes so much off of you already, just doing that one simple thing.
You know, I do understand it's hard to get yourself out of that mindset sometimes when you fall into it, but you know, I think sometimes you need to take a step back and realize you can't fix everything yourself, and you kind of have to seek out that help in order to do it.
Never be afraid to reach out for help professionally, especially, but also learn how to talk about your struggles. There's a lot of great programs out there that teach you how to talk about what's going on in your head.
Some signs that you might notice when people are considering suicide or thinking about suicide, at least from personal experience of, you know, when I've been through some of this experience myself, is you might notice them to be more reserved, more quiet, more disconnected from the people around them.
Definitely the feeling of burdenship. If people feel like they're burdening them, you hear that a lot.
Imagine being hypnotized and you don't know when the pen is going to drop it onto the cup and that clacking sound is going to happen. You don't know when you're going to come out of it.
You know, the biggest sign with anybody that has or is at risk that a lot of people don't talk about is the thing of giving away things. And sometimes they might not just start giving away things, they might have a list instead of who gets their things.
Distracted when they're communicating with you, mind is elsewhere. I mean, like a lot of these things can be associated with, you know, just a general like depression or uneasy feeling, but you know, it's a good starting sign that, you know, even if it's not suicide, there might be something wrong. There might be a friend you need to reach out to. Like, you know, definitely look for anything that would be not their normal selves.
It's existential, and it's very innate too. It's almost like these feelings, you can be told that, oh, you know, they're not real, there's nothing to be upset about, there's nothing to be anxious about, there's nothing to be sad about. But it's almost as if you're told so you sit in class and you're told your whole life 2 + 2 = 4. But every time you write down 2 + 2 = 4, you look and there's a tattoo on your wrist that you've always had, and it says 2 + 2 = 5. So you know 2 + 2 = 4, you write it down, but then you say, what about this? It's innate and you really can't get rid of it.
So for me, professional wise, my experience is I've never actually sought professional help. I've always kind of tackled it myself, probably not the best way. I don't necessarily recommend that.
I think just my standard counselor is wonderful, amazing. Having a counselor is just good, if only just to word vomit to them, mostly.
So my therapist is a godsend. He is the most wonderful man ever. He's always a phone call away from me. You know, and it hasn't always been that way. You know, it took me a while to find him.
And in that, if you find that you're not good at counseling, just word vomiting is very, very effective, because you talk yourself through things and realize.
A lot of people tend to find one therapist and they're like, no, therapy's not for me. But it wasn't therapy, it was maybe that person. So after your first few, I told myself, okay, maybe this person and I just doesn't work together.
From experience, that's, you know, with other people in my life who've had similar experiences, you know, therapy has been huge for them. You know, seeking out those resources, you know, just looking online, any kind of counseling, any kind of like group therapy has been very effective for a lot of people in my life who've had to deal with similar things to myself.
And there's nothing wrong with that at all. There's really nothing wrong with that. And it honestly, somebody asked me, well, if medication is going to help you, why not do it? Why not? If it's going to make you feel happier, why would you want that for yourself?
I think mental health nowadays is coming more into the mainstream. I think COVID really, despite all the bad things it brought, it made us take a lot of steps forward in being more open to talk about mental health, because everybody had such a rough year with it, and we were all kind of in the same boat. And all of a sudden, neurotypical people suddenly understood what it was like to be depressed and to be trapped.
I think what we're starting to run into is where it's becoming a topic of high discussion is that the connotation around it is not keeping up with the talk about it. And I think we need to refocus our way that we think and approach it, and kind of change the culture of the mindsets of how people view it, of how important it is, and just try to work on that toxic negative connotation that I think is really hurting the field more than anything right now.
That leads me to believe that no, we're not talking about it enough, because if we have to do these kinds of researches, then means we should probably be talking about it more. There is a stigma that goes around highly, and I feel like that's because that's from not talking about it.
The stigma is still there, and that's something that we just have to deal with.
I think it's very important that we have safe spaces set up in works, in schools, in all areas. I think we all need that kind of retreat sometimes, and the retreat can't, a solo retreat isn't always effective, so you need that space where you can be around other people safely to help you get through whatever you're getting through.
Communication is so important, and understanding mental health is so important. So that comes along with talking about it more, and that stigma. But if not every workplace is going to give that, just like not every workplace is going to be healthy. Okay. You're not always going to have a healthy boss, but again, just like before, talking about it, getting it out there, making it more comfortable for us to talk about it, getting rid of that stigma so people understand that sometimes being sick with the flu is almost the same thing as having a bad day when you're not well.
It's absolutely important for workplaces and other organizations to have a safe place for workers, employees, participants, beneficiaries to go and just say, hey, again, I'm having a rough day. But having a place to go, I call it a blue room, and having the option, having the option makes you feel so much better. Just having the option.
So for me, it's a little tough to talk about, just because I have had my dad and my uncle pass from that way. As you can tell by the way I kind of tiptoe around the way I'm saying things, but you know what? It is uncomfortable to talk about, and that's okay. Being uncomfortable with it is okay, because it's serious.
Because everybody knows it's serious, but at the same time, we joke about it because that's what we tend to do when we're uncomfortable. We tend to try to change the subject. We try to, break the ice.
Suicide for many is a very uncomfortable subject. And then there are other people who similarly feel very comfortable with the subject. And we need to go to those people who are willing to talk and are willing to sit down and work it out. We need to go to those people and ask them, why are you interested in this? Why do you want to do this? And really listen to them when they answer you.
Pushing past that initial discomfort and make it a more mainstream topic of conversation is how you kind of get past that, and kind of get past the joke of it.
And the way to do it sometimes is just take that deep breath and talk about it. Sometimes you don't always have to just say it.
My current campus does not have any sort of outlets that you could really reach out to, but I had studied a brief time at Brooklyn College, and I found that they were very, very forward about making sure everybody was included and making sure everybody felt prepared, safe, ready, coddled by the teachers, supported, I thought they were very adamant about that.
I'm one of those people that was fortunate enough that I have resources outside of school. Some people don't have that, and they need the resources, especially if you're coming from out of state.
I know they're there though because the university makes a good effort to make sure that you know that they're there. So they're very proactive in putting those lines out there.
Even not just in resources like therapy or groups, they also, if you're falling behind, which is, in my opinion, one of the most overwhelming and worst things, because you're paying all this money and you don't want to fail, and this is your whole entire life in front of you, and that's a very scary thought. So when you're not doing so well in school, it's scary.
I think we need to start pushing down down a little bit into high school and middle school, and start hitting these areas a lot earlier, because I think sometimes by the time you get to college, it might already be too late.
To get through hard times, really love to make art about the emotions that I'm feeling.
Art is definitely, I'm going into art therapy, so art's always a great answer for me.
And it can be as simple as just coming up with a statement that describes how you feel, and then putting it on paper in colorful letters. It's as simple as that.
I just did this little guy. This is future me. He's an art therapist. It's my gingerbread puppet. And it's so simple. Okay. And it's my motivator, because I know that I'm going to be this person one day. So she sits with my pens. So art is always a good thing. And it doesn't have to be good art. It doesn't have to be bad art. It just has to be you.
You want to establish your set of coping mechanisms in a fashion of ways. You want your long-term ones for your overall health, but you should have some ideas on hand of what makes you happy, what can you do to take your mind off of a more immediate situation, because sometimes emotions just hit.
And just talking about it. That's really hard, but doing that does help.
When it comes to talking about the mental health problem our country is facing, universal health care and built into that mental health, I mean, there's nothing really much more to say on that. I mean, this has become an issue of the resources aren't available because it's become more about money than it has been about taking care of people's health, and that needs to change.
There's absolutely a solution. There's always a solution to mental health problems. And that's something that suicidal ideation kind of takes away from you, is realizing that there is an out.
Honestly, I know for a fact it can get better, and it just comes to talking about it, educating, and getting in there and just fighting it. We really can do a lot.
Talking and being open is absolutely 100% the solution. The conversation needs to happen. And now we're lucky that it's happening quicker and more ferociously than ever.
What gives me hope is, we're at a time in history where, these conversations didn't exist. And I know people get frustrated and they're like, we're not doing enough, we have to do more. And, that's a great drive to push and stuff like that. But if you ever look at world history, it's pretty screwed up. So what gives me hope is that we are getting better, and change takes time. It takes generations. But if you see the overall direction we're heading in, it's a positive one.
Realizing the amount of love that I have in my life that maybe I sometimes ignore or don't want to admit is there or don't want to feel. But just realizing the amount of love that we all really do have in our lives in places that you don't look for it. That's really helped me a lot.
My progress gives me hope. Every time I see that I've come just a little further, I just say, okay, well, I've gotten this far. I could keep going. So, because I didn't think I'd be here.
If I had a message for anybody living with any kind of suicidal thoughts, it would be
learning to distinguish between the feeling of I want to die and I just want to feel better.
It is not easy, but it is worth every second.
You want to be proactive. Even if you don't think you're anywhere near suicide, if you notice something's wrong, if you notice you're depressed, be aggressive with it. Tackle that.
you have to realize you can talk yourself down from that and distinguish how important is this life ending? You have to ask yourself the question, is this really life ending? And most often the answer is no.
Find your way back to where you need to be healthy mentally.
It's going to have a lot of trials and errors. You're going to fall down, fall back. But every single time you take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, you still made 1 step.
My message for people who don't know how to help but would love to:
check in on people that you feel might need it.
You need to kind of be available without being pushy.
Be open, and like I said before, be open to the idea that the person presenting symptoms may not look like what you expect.
Educate others, and just know that every step is a good step. Everything's going to get better, and it's worth every second.
Hello everybody, my name is Ann Deubel. I'm the Long Island Chapter Board Chair for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I also have had the privilege of being our Campus Walk liaison for the last 5 years. This year, as with many of our other programs, the Campus Walk had to adapt and we entered the virtual space for the second time. But what was really inspiring to see was the diverse group of students that were able to participate because of this. This year, we have students registered from middle school all the way through alumni of universities. And we also have students from both Nassau and Suffolk County. As we were still figuring out what exactly is a virtual campus walk and being asked the question quite a bit, the students started answering. We had 2 main groups from NYIT join us, Prodco that put together and edited the video that you're seeing today, and the Carleton group that put together a social media campaign that took place all throughout April. Stony Brook University also had 2 teams, the Stony Brook Psychiatric Mental Health Nurse Practitioners that, in addition to having a campus walk team, got more than 50 of the participants in the program trained in mental health first aid, and the Stony Brook Alumni team that currently sits as our top fundraising team. Continuing with the theme of education, the students from SUNY Old Westbury got trained in our introductory suicide prevention program, Talk Saves Lives, including the LGBT+ module, as this was spearheaded by their diversity, equity, and inclusion team in their Division of Student Affairs. We also had a collaborative team come together of different GSAs all across Long Island through our team Unsilenced Alliance, brought together by our LGBT+ committee. This team is also hosting fundraising all throughout May, as you can continue fundraising for our Campus Walk event through June. For Mental Health Awareness Month, they have a fundraising campaign going on that will be linked in our description box below if you'd like to buy your tickets, as they are still available. In addition to all of these teams that were joining our Campus Walk initiatives for the first time, we had a returning team from Suffolk County Community College. This year, Suffolk will celebrate 5 years of supporting AFSP and has also been recognized as the first campus on Long Island to host a Campus Walk. We want to say a big thank you to the entire team at Suffolk, and specifically to Sarah Bowles for always spearheading those efforts. And we hope to see you again next year on the Ammerman campus. However you or your campus got involved today, I want to thank you for proving that students can save lives as we continue to support AFSP's mission to save lives and bring hope to those affected by suicide. Your donations today help to continue to fund AFSP's efforts in research, advocacy, education, and support. With that in mind, I want to leave you with this message. When I first got involved in AFSP, I was a freshman in high school who attended an Out of the Darkness community walk that looked quite different from the event we're doing today. I had no idea what, if any, role I could play in suicide prevention and mental health advocacy. But what I've learned in the last 10 years is that we all have a role to play in creating a culture that is smarter about mental health, where we're able to talk about suicide, where we're able to have that honest conversation. And you have a role to play as well. If you'd like to join us here at the AFSP Long Island chapter, you can reach out to us at afsp.org/Long Island or through our social media pages at AFSP_Long Island on Instagram and on Facebook. If you're choosing to walk in the community today, don't forget to tag us at AFSP_Long Island and use the hashtag CampusWalksLI. Before we go, I want to remind you that whatever reason you're joining us today, whether you're walking for a friend, a loved one, or for yourself, you're not alone. Here at AFSP, we are building a community of support and of hope. And if you or somebody you know is struggling, please don't hesitate to reach out to the Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255 or text 741-741. Thank you to everybody that joined us today, to all of those with lived experience that participated in this program, and we look forward to continuing to see you at our future AFSP events. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.